Hello, Liz. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm super excited that you came on, even despite me being away and trying to find this time. But again, I truly, truly appreciate you being here and talking about you and talking about your business and so on. So, really appreciate that.
No, it's my pleasure, honestly.
Yeah. So, let's start. And can you share your journey from being a lecturer to become a coach and a mentor? And what really inspired you to make that transition?
Mm. Gosh, it's such a long story, so I'll share a short version. The first thing to say is that I've always been spiritual. So when I was a little girl, before the internet was a thing, there was no social media, I was always drawn to crystals. I actually found a shoebox recently that I had from childhood, and I had a book about being a Taurus because I'm born on the 12th of May. I had some spells that I'd cut out. I had the Wheel of the Year crystals, incense. And this was when I was in primary school. So 8 years old, 10 years old. And no one else in my family was interested in this. None of my friends were interested in this. So I really don't know where it came from. It was just very natural to me. I loved going in the metaphysical shops, the crystal shops, the witchy shops.
Mhm.
Usually most towns have one. And I would always be drawn into them. It was a very inherent thing that was always there. But I never realized it could be a career. And so I went through school, did well, did a degree. I actually started my career in investment banking. And when I meet people now, they can never believe that because they're like, what? Like, that doesn't make
What a
sense.
pivot, right? In the
Yeah,
career, for sure.
exactly. But that was actually really important on my journey because while I was there, I had an anxiety disorder. I didn't realize was an anxiety disorder because I went to the doctor and I was like, I've got terrible headaches every single day. I've got palpitations. I couldn't sleep. I would wake up in the night and be boiling hot, sweating. I was just really physically unwell. So I went to the
Mhm.
doctor, was like, oh, I'm really physically unwell. They did all these different tests and said, you're completely fine. Have you ever thought that you might have an anxiety disorder? And I went, what? I didn't know what that was. And
Mhm.
so then they prescribed me some pills, some beta blockers. And I quickly
Mhm.
realized this isn't a solution. Like what they'd given me was just putting it over the top. It didn't solve the problem. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to just be on pills forever and ever. It wasn't a cure. So then I went on a journey of trying to find an actual cure. And that was the first time that I tried Reiki, I tried acupuncture, I was doing 3 hour meditations to try and open my third eye. And I was trying to cure myself of this
Mhm.
anxiety disorder, which I eventually ended up doing through hypnotherapy. So it was actually
Mhm.
a massive key for me to get into this world and to go on a healing journey, which was very much a self discovery journey, and really learning about what's beyond the physical world and how we can heal through
Mhm.
these alternative modalities, because that's what I was forced to do because Western medicine didn't have a cure for me. So I was kind of pushed into
Mhm.
this other world. And then I saw the effectiveness of these other things, the subconscious
Mhm.
mind, energy healing. So that was actually a very important step, even though I hated the job. And so I then actually moved into fashion after that because I thought, right, I hate this. I was miserable, obviously very stressed out. It gave me an anxiety disorder, which now I look back and I realize that was because my soul and my body and my life were just completely out of sync. I wasn't able to be myself. It was just all wrong. And my book
Mhm.
is called Living in Tune. And I wrote it about that because I didn't know what living in tune was. I didn't know what my intuition was. So I completely operated from logic, what I should do, what
Mhm.
made sense.
What we were told what to do and how to live and everything. Right.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And so I followed that path, realized, okay, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. No way. I don't care how much I'm paid. And then I went into fashion thinking, okay, I'm going to be creative. Like that's what's missing. I just need to be creative. I've always loved fashion. I thought, okay, I'll feel free there. And then I ended up just getting paid less, working more hours,
Mhm.
and there were no windows. And again, within 6 months, I just felt awful. And this time I had a lot of environmental guilt as well because I was seeing
Mhm.
the waste and that
Mm,
side
yeah.
of things. And it really, really put me
Mhm.
off, which again, I actually needed. I used to be a real shopaholic. And then since I worked in fashion, I'm like, I barely buy anything now because it
Mhm.
made me feel quite ill. Um, And so then I was in a real predicament because by this point I was engaged, we'd bought a house and had a mortgage and obviously having a wedding. So it wasn't as easy to change career, but it was actually by a total coincidence. My old lecturer, head of my master's degree, invited me back to do a guest session on buying and merchandising because I was working as a merchandiser. And it was actually during that session he then invited me to work there. And that's how I became a lecturer. And that was really perfect because it was part-time, but I was getting paid a really good hourly rate. So I was working a lot less hours, but getting paid the same as I was in fashion, which allowed me to build my business on the side. And that was also when I discovered that I loved teaching, and I loved that side of things. And it was a really, really long journey. And there's probably a few other twists and turns in there. But I basically, thanks to the internet, realized, okay, there's a way to make my passion for spirituality my career. And it was when I was working in fashion, I'd be walking down the corridors, getting these words just dropping in. And I saved them to a note in my phone. And one day I was like, there's so much here. And I put it into a Word document. It was 30,000 words. And so that's when I realized, okay, I guess I'm going to be an author then. And then I found Hay House and I went to one of their events. And that was back in 2018. And that was also the same year I started my Instagram, my website, and everything grew really organically from there.
So did you know about, I mean, I know you were very spiritual at a very young age. Did that spirituality play a role, for example, when you were transitioned from being working in the financial district, moving into the fashion before you started writing all these letters in your notepad? Was there a period in your life when you were like, wait a minute, there's something going on? Or was that when you actually entered that lectures and teaching people, that's when you had that pivotal aha moment for you?
Yeah, it was then, because before that, in the kind of early 2010s, I just had no idea how I could make it a career. So the option, I just didn't see how it was possible. I didn't have the awareness of coaching. And when I started and I was trying to get a book deal, the first offer I did was tarot readings, and they were like $45. And I started to realize then, okay, how would I make a full-time income from this? And it was actually so when I met at a Hay House event in 2019, and she said she was a coach and she suggested that to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So coaching was really the vehicle that allowed me to then make a full-time income doing what I love. And there were just so many years where I just had no awareness and no idea how I could make a full-time income out of it. That was always the gap for me. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are stuck in that transition. I find it coming through my background as well and doing all these workshops and retreats. I find it that people are, either in search of something or they're like, how do I get out of that rant of being stuck? So that brings me into a question about your book, Living in Tune. Can you share with the audience what really inspired you again to write this book? And again, the whole process of what you basically, the idea of life, what was it for you?
Yeah. So it's called Living in Tune, 21 Questions to Activate Your Intuition and Find Your Life Purpose. And it was inspired by the journey that I just said, because when I look back, it's so obvious. But at the time, I did not know what intuition was. Like, I'd heard of women's intuition, but my body was screaming at me saying this. It was like, alert, alert, like this is wrong. An alarm was going off. And that was why I had the anxiety. So that's why I was so physically ill for no medical reason. And I just didn't know to tune into that. And there were so many times I look back where it's like I had an awful feeling. I went ahead anyway because I didn't realize, oh, I should pay attention to my body. I should pay attention to how I feel. If something gives me a terrible feeling, don't do it. If something gives me a buzz and this like really good feeling, do it. It's so simple. It's so basic, but I was never taught that. And so that caused me a lot of pain, something so simple, so basic, that solution isn't something that we're taught in the Western world. We're not taught to follow our intuition, to tune in, to do what's right for you, like to really go against the grain, because, you know, doing this career, it doesn't make sense. I've lost friends over it. Most people don't have a clue what I do. People don't agree with it. So that was hard as well, to be able to go my own way. But that is something that will often happen when you follow your intuition. So it's really about empowering people to tune in, to follow their intuition and the subtleties and the nuances that come along with that. And then through that, they can trust themselves to follow the path that is right for them, which is unlocking their soul gifts and their sense of purpose that is right for them. Because it was trying to put myself in a box and following my mind and my logic rather than my heart, my soul, my intuition, that caused me so much unnecessary suffering. But obviously now I see it was necessary, because it gave me the lessons and things that I can now use to help other people who are often corporate women stuck in jobs, or like you say, just feeling really lost and unsure about what their soul gifts are, what they're here to do. And they're on that spiritual awakening journey of realizing, oh, I have, you know, I get taps in my ears, I get goosebumps, I have these like things happening. But most people in the Western world will say, that's ridiculous, it's nothing, ignore it. And so this book is really about empowering people to tune into their intuition, trust it, follow it, and then create a life that is perfect for them on the back of it.
That's beautiful. Now, how has writing your book influenced your coaching practice?
Massively.
How did that come in? Yeah. How did that come in for you?
So they were very linked together. So I actually created the book based on a framework that I was using with my clients and inspired by clients like early on in my business, because coaching clients would often come to me and they'd be like, I want to know my purpose. I want to know my purpose. And like even now, today, someone booked in for an Akashic Records reading with me, because it's all about like finding your soul gifts. And that clarity is so helpful for people to be like, this is who I am. This is what my skills are. This is what I'm here to do. And this is what's going to be deeply fulfilling for me. And so I noticed that I was getting clients, and that was like a very common theme. So then I tried to figure out, okay, what would be a framework, practical framework that I could give people to try and figure this out so they can get that clarity and that certainty. And so that's why it's 21 questions to activate your intuition and find your life purpose. And at the beginning, all 21 chapters begin with P. So it will be like pain, past, and it basically tunes into different experiences that you've had, parts of your life. And then there's a question. And if you, and I never do the journaling in books, but people always say they do the journaling and they answer the questions and it helps them to get clarity. So it was through my clients, my early clients, that actually inspired me to create a framework to solve an issue that they had. And then now it's kind of reversed in that I think pretty much every client I have has read the book, and then they come to me, and then they come and find me, and then they kind of, you know, they know what it's about and the energy, and then they come into my business after they've read it.
Yeah. So how can the audience go about getting a copy of your book?
So it's sold everywhere. It's published by Hay House. So it's called Living in Tune on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, WH Smith in the UK. There's also a free sample, so you can get the first 3 chapters for free at lizroberta.com/free. And then you can start reading it for free there and see if it's a fit.
Great. What I will do is definitely link the website and everything that we're talking about at the end of the notes, so people can go there and look into that for sure. That's awesome. So you work with a diverse range of clients in the wellness industry. What do you think are the unique challenges faced by entrepreneur in this field today?
So I gave a talk on this last month, actually, and I was saying how I think the biggest challenge that we have is a lot of people not believing in us and our work. And then I think that makes people struggle with believing in themselves, because it's like, I give the example, my husband just also became an entrepreneur, gave up his career as an engineer to create a furniture business. But no one is against him having a furniture business. No one is saying they don't believe in furniture. It's all made up. It's fake. It's like with a lot of other careers, they're generally accepted. No one's arguing. No one disagrees with it. No one's going to call you a fraud. with our line of work, I find that people really struggle to come out to their family and friends and say, I'm doing spiritual work. They struggle with the fear of judgment, the witch wound, the persecution. What are people going to think? And it's scary enough to come out and be an entrepreneur and to take those risks and to start a new business. And I find that is the hardest thing that people struggle with, is the fact that they are kind of on the, in the separate little part of society where we're all a really strong, gorgeous community. Oh my gosh, the most incredible people in our space. It's so warm, it's so lovely. But they struggle with the fact that their dad is a real skeptic and their friends are, don't believe in it and stuff like that. And so it can be really hard to then do this line of work that they love, but is going to have so much pushback from other people.
Those common barriers are not fun. So how in your work, how do you help overcome these barriers?
So it's kind of two-sided. So I do both the masculine and the feminine. So I help people with the business side of things, actually building the business. And then the feminine side is like the self-concept, the identity, the power and the confidence. And as you know, having a business, such a big block that I was actually talking about on a call earlier today with a group is showing up online, speaking on camera, being seen. And again, it goes back to that confidence, the identity. Who do you see yourself as? And this is often linked to the inner child, where we've created these beliefs in our subconscious mind based on our childhood experiences, and they're stored there. And so we're just like repeating these patterns of shame, of fear, of wanting to be accepted, things like that. So I do the kind of personal development side of things, the support, spiritual transformation, energy healing, and inner work, and then also the business building as well. So they're like two branches within the same, because I just know that when you're building a business, there's so much more to it than that. And if you just give people the business tools, they may not take it anywhere if they haven't done the transformation work alongside it as well.
Oh, I can relate. When I started my podcasting about 8 months ago, it was the same thing. It was going back and forth. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm in front of the camera. I can't be in front of the camera. What happens if I make a mistake? I'm like thinking my background, being Polish. I'm like, well, yes, my English is perfect, but what happens if I get stuck with certain words and I can't pronounce them? And then at the end of the day, I was like, oh my gosh, just go and do it. It doesn't matter. You're just having a conversation. And if you screw up, we're human beings. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about perfection. It's not about getting the words right. It's not about, as I said, being perfect. It's just going out there and doing it, being real. I think that was real message for me to share with my audience, for example, is like, be you, be who you are. So that was a huge one for me.
Absolutely. And I mean, English people get words wrong all the time. Like, it's like, even when it's your own language, people mess up the words, they say it wrong, they spell it wrong. So it's like no one's perfect anyway.
Right. So how do you help your, let's say, new entrepreneurships or entrepreneurs who are looking to establish their brand in this, I don't want to say chaotic, but this crowded market? Because I find too, a lot of people that come to me, for example, for a little advice here and there, and I'm like, let's say I am a holistic nutritionist, right? And I have holistic nutritionists coming up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a holistic nutritionist. And there's so many of us, like health coaches, holistic nutritionists, dietitians. And I'm like, at the end of the day, what I see is that we are all unique, and we do have a unique, or we specialize in like one particular thing. So for me, for example, it's helping women with hormones, perimenopause, menopause kind of thing. So it's whoever is new in the health industry and they come to me and say, oh my goodness, I'm afraid, or I don't know where to start. I'm like, just do what comes from you. If it's gut healing, if it's mental health, if it's just creating some sort of delicious food, go for it. But how you, let's say, deal with that? And how do you help other people?
Mm. So you've already done one of the things that I was going to say, which is finding your expertise, your niche within. So like the holistic nutritionist is the umbrella, but you found a segment within that. So that's the first thing that I'd say, to set yourself apart when people are doing different things. The brand is such an interesting thing because it's actually very intangible. So there's different components to it. It's the visual branding. So if you have a look at my Instagram page or my website, you'll see they're very cohesive. There's pinks and reds, and then there's like some gold and some sparkles, and it's quite feminine. And there's like a visual cohesive brand. So when you're building a brand, that's one part of it, the visual branding. Another part of it is the message. So having a consistent key message, something that you're repeating over and over again. And over time, that tells people, okay, if they want that thing, they need to come to you. Another part of it is the kind of vibe and the energy. And part of that is about how you are as a person and how you're coming across. So in my brand, I base it on the magician, and I want people to feel magic. I want them to come in and feel like anything is possible. And hopefully if people come onto my Instagram, for example, and they look at it, they read some posts, they're going to feel like, yes, anything is possible. Like, let's transform our lives. Let's create our dream lives. And so it's having that consistent message, the visual brand, and then also the energy that you're creating and bringing to it that you're an embodiment of. Because it's really important to be an embodiment of what you want your brand to be and what you want your brand to represent. So for example, if vitality was like one of your key things, and it's like, you know, you want people to be like shining like the sun, to be so full of life, to wake up feeling clear-headed, I would talk a lot about that. And I would talk about your transformation journey. So it's like, I used to be like this and now I'm like this, so that people get an idea of, okay, this is like the thing, and she's embodying that. Because sometimes what we come across is that you can, it's this energetic, very subtle thing, you can feel they're not fully embodying it, like they're not the example of it. That makes a big difference, because when you're fully embodying what your brand is and what you're putting across, you become this natural authority, and it's very, very effortless. And so that, exactly. And people really see and feel that you're the expert. You're not just saying the words, you are living and breathing it. And it gives you this real confidence. And it's like, I can talk about this all day. Like, I know I'm the best at this thing because I've lived it, I've embodied it, I help other people with it. And just making sure that like it is the right thing for you. And you obviously already have your business, but if someone else listening, it's like, before all of this is really being in alignment with your soul gifts. I had another business before this that was selling yoga gear on Amazon. And actually that ended up going wrong. I got charged a whole bunch of fees from Amazon. I ended up closing it. And that was the universe being like, this isn't your business. Like, this wasn't the right thing. And so when people are coming up against a lot of struggles and roadblocks, sometimes it's because it's like, this isn't quite right for you. So the very core, the foundation is this like you? Is this your essence, your energy, your soul gifts? Is this how you can help the world in the biggest way? And is it something that you could talk about all day? Like, it's so natural. It just pours out of you. You study it for fun. You love it. Like, at the core of it, you want that. Otherwise, that affects how you show up. And people can feel that, again, that like misalignment there. But once you've got that in place, then you build the brand, you keep showing up, you have that message, you embody it, and you show up as an authority. Obviously, get yourself seen wherever you can. Help people in a really, really big way so that they then recommend you, give you great testimonials, and just stick with it, because it does take time to build.
No, I agree. Yeah, it took a while, but here we are. Can you tell us more about your accreditation court certification and what sets it apart from other coaching programs? Because there is a lot of them out there. So what is about your coaching program that's so special?
So this is Spiritual Coaching Academy. And I created it because I couldn't see any other spiritual coach certifications. There was like life coaching ones and things like that. But I was like, right. And it's exactly what I said at the beginning. I didn't see a way to create a full-time income out of spiritual work. And it was actually through spiritual coaching that allowed me to do that. So that really inspired me to help people to become spiritual coaches. And I actually ran the program twice because it's a 3-month program. I ran it twice just as a transformation program. And so we go through inner child, healing the witch wound. We go through limiting beliefs, past life work, forgiveness, quantum leaping, energy body, all these kind of spiritual things to give you a full transformation. And I took people through that twice. And then I really decided, okay, this is going to be a certification. And then not only are people going to get their own transformation result, they're going to feel empowered to then go and be a spiritual coach and to help other people. So it's really giving people that tool to be able to make a full-time income. And often people are doing Reiki or tarot, where they're getting, those small payments, $50, $80, but they're not able to leave their full-time job. And so when they become certified as a coach, they then feel like, okay, now I can help people in this more holistic way. And it's giving them another modality, another tool to use their intuition and their energy healing gifts in a way to support people over the longer term and make a bigger impact with the work that they love, while also going on their transformation journey. And I think that's because I've done other certifications, but as I said, I initially ran it just as a transformation and healing program. So we do live breathwork sessions. I do live energy healing sessions. There's you connect with your higher self. There's heart healing. So it's like a real healing, beautiful transformation program that you get. And also you get the certification as well. So that's why I love this program so much.
That's wonderful. No, that's great. And it's, I've noticed this too in my journey, that there's a lot of people that are looking for the change in terms of working the 9 to 5. And they're looking for really, like I think that you said, looking into the heart and really connecting of, who they are and what they want to do with their lives in a way. So I know you work with a lot of, not mostly, but most clients are female entrepreneur, right? So in that word, how do you find that women facing in this business world right now? What are the most challenging for women? Is it the self-destruction? Is it this not believing in themselves? Is it what's going on there?
Definitely what you just said. And I have had some male clients, but within the last kind of 2 years, I was like, I'm just going to own it and just do females, because it was 99% anyway. And I love working with women. I've always been a girl's girl. So I do just work with women now. And 100% it is the belief in themselves and that level of certainty and conviction, I am the best at this. And when they don't have that belief in themselves, that affects how they show up. Sometimes they'll self-sabotage by, not showing up that often, but their brain will come up with very good excuses. Oh, you don't have to do this today. Don't bother. And that's what the brain will do, because actually it's protecting them from this, painful feeling of, what if this isn't good enough? Not if it's not what they want it to be. What if people don't like it? And it's actually it needs to come within you, that deep self-love, that deep self-belief. And that's easier to do when you know what your soul gifts are, because then it becomes about something bigger than you, because it's I just need to deliver this service. I just need to help people with this, get that out there. But sometimes people get in their head and it's they make it more about them than actually it's about the purpose and the calling and the service and the work that they've got to do. But definitely the belief in themselves. And unfortunately, when you're early on in business, your business will reflect that back to you. I had a launch, and my first launch that I did for my first course, no one bought. And I was devastated and I felt so upset. But it's when you start a business, of course that's going to happen. People aren't just going to come running in. That's part of it. But it was so painful at the time. And that's why you have to believe
Right.
until it's the reality, regardless of proof.
Because if not, these little words will creep in and they will literally, change the trajectory of where you want to go in a way, right? So I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much constant reminder. Yeah.
It's so much easier said than done. It's very easy for us to sit here and say it.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I think
hard.
we've all had these challenges ourselves that, we come to that point where we're like, okay, I think I'm done. I can keep going, but yeah, I hear you because I think we all been there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got Richard Branson's book, and in it he says, whenever you feel that way, take a break, don't quit. And I love that advice because it's like when you have a massive blow in business, you have that launch early on, no one buys, you've tried your best, it didn't work. It doesn't mean stop the business. It means have 2 days off, go for a walk, cry, shake it off, and then come back to it and just start again, start on the next thing. It doesn't mean you have to quit. You have to keep going. And it's the people who keep going and keep believing who eventually make it happen. It's a long game.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, it's like it's that heart and brain coherent. You have to connect these two and pushing yourself through. Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what inspired you to start the Liz Roberta show? And maybe what was or what has been some of your favorite moments or lesson learned along the way?
So this is really interesting because I actually started my podcast all the way back in 2019. And then it was called Spiritual Success. But as you know, time goes on. And I felt when I was traveling, I was like, gosh, that feels so old. It feels like such an old version of me. I would listen to it and be like, who is that? And so I ended up deleting all those episodes, created another podcast, same thing happened. And that happened a few times. And eventually I went, gosh, I can't stick with a name here. Like it keeps changing. And I realized I've got to just call it my name. And I had a bit of fear around that because I went, oh, it sounds like the Liz Roberta show. Like I'm not a celebrity, but it's worked really well for having my Instagram and my website as just Liz Roberta because it's like whatever I do, if in 10 years time I want to talk about motherhood or however my business evolves, I can always have it under that umbrella. So really, really good tip for people listening. And I find this with my clients as well. They'll call their Instagram, peace and healing. And then in like 2 years' time, they change it to something else and they change something else. So having just your name is super powerful. But I created it because I'm a messenger, like very much part of my soul gift is being a messenger. So writing, speaking always does really, really well for me. I was terrified to start with because I had all the usual thoughts, I don't like my voice. It's going to be boring. What am I going to talk about? People don't want to listen to me, all that kind of stuff. But it was only after I went on other people's podcasts first, I had a really good time. And the first time I was so terrified, I didn't have a good time. But once I got used to going on people's podcasts, I was like, okay, this is really fun. And so I then started kind of getting the idea, maybe I should do this. And I knew in my soul that was what I was meant to do. And I got told in a few readings, people would say, you should really do a podcast. And I was getting all the signs. You know what it's like when the universe is like, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. And so eventually I did start a podcast. And in terms of my favorite moments, I've had some really good authors on there. So I had someone called Alison Charles, who has a book called Animal Power. And it's basically an encyclopedia of power animals. And I use it all the time because it's like if you see a beetle or recently I had a ladybug in my house, just like in my house. And I was like, what is that doing here? And so immediately I was like, what is it? But I often find when I look things up online, it gives you vague descriptions or 10 different descriptions on different websites. And so I used that book and that was a really great interview with her. I also had an author called Susie Ashworth. She's another Hay House author. She's got a book called Infinite Receiving. That was a really powerful episode. And one of my favorite episodes that was just a solo episode was about personal year numbers. And I love that because people have had like brainwaves. And when you get messages from people and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of this. I've never seen it, but it's so true because it helped people to realize, oh, your life is going on this rhythm of the years 1 to 9, 1 to 9, 1 to 9. And I basically talk about that in the episode. And so when people message me like, wow, I love that when it gives people breakthroughs like that.
Oh, yeah. By the way, congratulations on your shortlisted for the purpose entrepreneur category at the British Entrepreneur Award. What does this recognition mean to you and your work?
Yeah, so this is really great. This was last month in London. So it's the Great British Entrepreneur Awards.
Big congratulations.
Thank you. And what it meant was and someone actually messaged me from my community and they were like, this is for all of us, Liz. And I was like, yes. And it was being someone who does spiritual work, healing work there. And obviously in the purpose category that I think was so meaningful and important because, I mean, on the table we were on, there was someone with an AI company, someone with a nutrition company. These, I may have been the only spiritual kind of company there. And so that's why it was meaningful because it was just bringing it into the a room of mainstream businesses and representing our little witchy corner of the internet there.
That must have been super exciting for you. I just cannot imagine, or I can't imagine you being out there and be like super exciting. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Very rewarding. Yes.
It was fun being at a black tie event because you don't usually get a chance to go to stuff like that. So that was really nice, wearing like a full long gown and all of that. That was good.
Oh, nice. So looking ahead for you, what are your goals for your coaching business and your writing? Is there another book coming? Are there any new project initiatives you would like to share with us?
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many plans.
So fun.
So when I look forward to into 2025, I've got an ebook coming through at the moment. So definitely more books. I would definitely do more books. But I'm thinking at the moment just another ebook. And at the beginning of my journey, I did do a few ebooks and they did really, really well. So just as like an instant access PDF. So I'm not totally, I'm not going to reveal what that's about. But I'm thinking that I'm going to do a new 7-month mastermind called Highly Paid Healer. Because at the moment, my business mastermind is called the Spiritual Business Mastermind. It's helping people to get set up, build their business. And so I want one above that where it's like, okay, I've built the business. Now let's do high ticket. Now let's make more than enough money. Like, let's go bigger. So that's the next mastermind that I'm going to be doing. And kind of longer term, more speaking on stage, more books, and just reaching loads and loads of people. And I want this stuff to be more mainstream. And I want people to be fully aligned in their soul gifts. I don't want this to be some kind of fringe, weird, woo-woo work. I want it to be part of people's everyday lives. And as I said at the beginning, it was this alternative healing that helped me. And so I want that to be more normalized and for people to have the understanding that there are other ways available and to know that trusting their intuition is okay. You don't always need that external validation or proof in quotation marks. It's about trusting yourself and knowing that it's okay to go your own way.
That's nice. Yes, I totally agree. How about your Akashic records? How did you discover that you have the gift? I mean, I know personally that we all have the gift to tap into our own Akashic records, but I still find it very difficult to get there. But what brought you into, how did you get into the Akashic records?
Yeah, really good question. So as I said, I've always known I'm a messenger, and the Akashic records is very kind of closely aligned with that because it's like passing messages down. And the first offer that I did in my business was tarot readings. So I was used to giving readings to people. I knew I was good at that and I knew I could do that. I've had multiple past life regressions. So I have a friend called Daniel. He's a past life regressionist. We've done, I think, 3, and they're long. They're like 4-hour sessions. And in one of them, I saw, and I was taken to the fact that I was a keeper of the Akashic records. And I saw this vision very, very clearly that didn't make sense because I'd always imagined, it's a library or a book. And what I saw was it was actually a dimensional realm. And there were these beings kind of floating around that would telepathically pass information to anyone who was tuning into the Akashic records. And so I saw this in my past life regression. I was like, okay, interesting. And I knew I had this connection with the Akashic records. And this was years ago, probably about 4 years ago. Never did anything with it until only a few months ago, I saw someone advertise a course about the Akashic records. And I was like, interesting. And when you just feel like this is the time. So I did this course and then I was like, okay. And when I tuned in, I felt my body vibrating, buzzing. I was like, okay, I'm in the frequency. And it was so clear. And it was like, right, next mastermind needs to be 7 months. this program you've got actually need to be extended to 6 months. And it was just so clear, so easy. And then I was going in every single day, journal, journal, journal. I could see, right, you've got this pattern. This is from your mum's side. Okay, right, we're going to close that. And it was just like a key to the universe. It was like just all the information, what's blocking you, what your soul gifts are, how to align things. And so I was doing that for myself every single day. And I was like, where has this been all my life? Like, where has this been? It's so easy and simple. And so then I started offering them as readings. And I used to do business oracle calls, which would be intuitive. I would use tarot, I would tune in, do some energy healing. So it was like very similar. And then this was just the next level up. And it's like just going into the records and just being able to very clearly see, like, boom, boom, boom. These are your gifts. This is what you're here to do. This is what's going to work for you. So it's just a real step up in that way. And I actually did one with my friend recently, and I'd done a session with her previously. And she was like, your gifts have gone way up. And I was like, I know, it's the Akashic Records. It's just like, it's really easy for me. Yeah.
So it comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
We human beings are very powerful when we in tune with ourselves, and the gifts that we have. And all of us have these gifts. So, yeah.
Absolutely. As you said earlier, it's about tuning into the heart. So much of it comes through the heart. And it's about the intention. And when you have that true heart-centered soul desire to help and to heal someone, and you send that energy towards them, that's such a large part of the work.
How can the audience reach you? How can they get in contact with you?
So the best place is Instagram at I'm Liz Roberta. My website is lizroberta.com. My book is called Living in Tune, published by Hay House. And if you go to lizroberta.com/free, you can get a free sample of it there.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I will definitely link everything on the bottom of the notes. And I appreciate so much you coming on and sharing of what you do in this world. I appreciate you very much.
So grateful for you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.